Welcome to Pursuing Joy, where we share audacious stories of joy-infused strength. I am Julie Lunsford, and I am hosting Pursuing Joy in the middle of a Working Genius series, and I had the privilege of meeting Lara, and I wanted to have her introduce herself, and we'll get into how we ended up intersecting. Welcome, Lara.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Julie. My name is Lara Allen, and I am the president of a company called Nonprofit Navigators. I am in Birmingham, Alabama, but I moved from Denver, Colorado a little while ago, 7 years ago. And so I have clients and employees in several different states, mostly in Colorado and here in Alabama. And we provide grant writing and consulting services for nonprofits to help nonprofits thrive and raise money that they need to do their mission.
All right, awesome. Okay, so I actually lived in Utah for 10 years and moved from Utah to Georgia. So that begs the question.
Yes.
Where do you see cultural differences? And how have you assimilated?
Yeah, there's definitely culture differences. I grew up in Montana and ended up in Colorado for over 20 years and then on down to Alabama. And people usually say why also. So just answer that question. My husband is from Alabama and we decided to move back home for him and are near his family. And it's been wonderful that way. So there were several differences. It is definitely a more blue state, if you'd say. It's a more liberal state and then the South and the Bible Belt. So part of it was it just didn't line up with our values as much anymore. A lot of the things that we were seeing happening, we didn't really agree with. The housing costs were out of control. So we had a hard time buying a house there. We were able to buy a house here. And there's just the differences in cultures, though, go further than political or spiritual. It's with fundraising, we found it seems to be way more relationship based here.
Okay.
And I had to learn that because I, tried to see if I'm moving my grant writing business here. I didn't know what I didn't know, but I'm so grateful that I hired people here who were Southerners. And I would just watch, especially my first hire here. I realized I don't need to be saying much at all in these client meetings. she would just start with her sweet Southern accent and her Southern charm. And you always start with, how are you doing? And tell me about this and that, just very relational first with clients and with funders. And I feel like Colorado, especially the Denver area, is a big city. It's more just get her done. And you can apply for any grant online, whether you talk to the person or not. And here you really need to talk to the people first and make sure you build a relationship and who knows who. And it's just, that's a difference in culture in my field.
Okay. How do you feel about the summer?
I love it.
Okay.
Like I said, I lived in Montana for over 20 years. I lived in Colorado for a long time. And so I really don't need to be cold ever again. I really don't need to see snow or drive in ice ever again. It's still exciting when there's snow here once in a great while. Right. But I always say that. I'm like, right now we're in the hottest part of the year and I don't want to sit out there for a long time. But right. But having flowers all year round. And I always tell people, because people are like, oh, how do you handle it? I would prefer this over the snow and cold and ice every year now.
Yes, I could go the rest of my life without snow. I would be totally fine with that. I agree with that. All right. So I ended up, during this Working Genius, where it's turned into quite the social experiment for me, I realized that I was interviewing several people that had enablement and galvanizing, either enablement in a genius and galvanizing in frustration, or vice versa. So I thought, why don't I find some EGs to interview? And 3 responded. And so I'm interviewing. You're the second one that I'm interviewing. But what I have noticed with just 3 random people, is that every one of them have had the frustrations of wonder and invention. And
Huh.
I know, and I know that it is a common thinking within the working genius community as they are facilitating or giving other people assessments that wonder invention as a frustration is a difficulty as an entrepreneur or starting a business. So can you speak to your geniuses and being an entrepreneur at the same time?
Yes. I mean, I feel like I fell into entrepreneurship. It wasn't my idea. It was God's idea, I think. But this was 17 years ago. I had little kids at home and I was writing grants for a nonprofit organization. And that was right in my enablement. I was helping this organization, right? I was writing their grants. I was doing all kinds of fundraising. And then I wanted to be home more and be more flexible. I had a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. And so I thought, well, I wonder if I could just write grants for another organization. And so I did that. And then I ended up quitting my regular job and took on a few more clients. And so I just kind of fell into it, probably leaning on my enablement, I'm guessing. Because it wasn't like
Okay.
I had this big grandiose idea, I need to start a business. It was more just kind of happened step by step. Well, I know how to write grants, which is very much tenacity, which I say is it's definitely my third as far as working competency. I think it's right up under my name. I think enablement's the highest, then galvanizing and tenacity kind of close
Mm-hmm.
in my mind, because I could crank those grants out. But they definitely drained me after a while. So I was doing that alone in my basement for years. Just, I shouldn't say that. I wasn't only in my basement, but you know what I mean? It was
Right.
doing my own thing. And I got a few more clients as my kids got older, as they got into school. I got a few more clients. The business kind of just organically grew with my family. As I had more time, then I added another client or so, and they just came. Well, I got to a few years in and thought, I don't want to do this I was just really burnt out. And I hired a friend and she said, well, can't I help you with it? And I could do this. And we kind of grew the business together, learned a lot together. And that's when I realized I do not like being all by myself, doing all the things. I really love collaborating and having a partner. And then I started hiring more and more. And looking back on all of that from a working genius perspective, it makes complete sense. I was probably leaning on my enablement to even get me going. And then using my discernment and tenacity to do it. But when that's your working competency, it completely drains you after a while. And then when I got to be a boss and a organizer of all of the work and bringing more people on the team and putting them in places where they could thrive, that's where I just boosted my energy big time. To get back to your question though about working wonder and invention, I still was always feeling like I can't be a real leader though. I can't, this can't really be happening. I don't really, every time I would watch a podcast or, read a book or anything on leadership, it's the leader is the visionary, the entrepreneur is the visionary. And I'm thinking, I'm not. I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know. I don't give me a blank whiteboard. I freeze. I can't do that. And so I relied on my first friend that I hired. I relied on her invention some, I think, to
Okay.
really get it going and didn't realize it. Trying to push her into a grant writer role, which she hated. She's not tenacity at all, but I think she's an invention enablement, we realized. Now, because she's still my dearest friend, even though she hasn't worked with me for years. And we were talking about it. And I'm like, oh my goodness, if I would have known that I could rely on your invention and not push you into tenacity, we would have gone so much further. Because really, she would have all these great ideas. And I'm like, I don't know about that. I'd be all scared about it. No, 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 no. And then later, as years go on, here we are growing into really what she envisioned all those years ago. But I didn't let her run with it.
All right, right. Yeah, no, okay. So it's basically there was a need out there. You could help people with it, and so you pieced it together from your helpful enablement
Yeah,
side.
and helping my family too. It's like,
Right.
well, I can make more money for our family doing this than what I was doing before. I can be there for my babies better than I could going into an office. So it was more just out of necessity. And then it grew from there.
How do you fulfill your galvanizing side in this?
Oh, definitely the I guess project management type of role as a leader is seeing all the pieces, parts, and getting everybody excited about our mission. This is what we're doing. Here we go. And I guess my greatest joy is hiring people and putting them in roles where they can thrive in their areas of genius. And so the galvanizing part of that is the delegating and who's doing what this week, this month, where are we at, systematically, I guess. I don't know. I think all that fits in there.
Yes, no, that's some things. So galvanizing is one of my competencies. And I love collaboration, like what you said. In fact, this podcast, because I work from home and I homeschool my children and I am doing everything, virtually, this podcast is where I feel like my galvanizing kind of is able to come out, and I'm able to intersect and collaborate with people, because I never walk away from this without having something that I can implement either in life or in my business. And so this is what fuels me throughout the day. And then what you said about hiring people, that is, I was thinking about kind of my journey and putting people within their passion to fulfill their passion with a company that needs that passion at the same time is a huge joy for me.
Right.
And I think I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't had recruiting in my background or before, and then was able to sync that with what I discovered with Working Genius at the same time. So you gave me a high compliment the other day without probably you even knowing it, within I don't know, 5 to 7 minutes of our pre-podcast discussion. And I've had this presented to me in different ways. Like, people notice things and say different things. And the way that's been presented to me in the past has been, are you a person of faith? Are you also a person of faith? And you said to me, do you also love Jesus?
Yeah.
And if that can be exuded in a few minutes, then the Lord is getting his work done. And so that was just, I realized going to bed that night that really, really hit me. So when you are thinking about spirituality, and we discuss spiritual gifts, did you see your spiritual gifts before Working Genius? And then could you link those up once you saw Working Genius on paper?
I mean, yes. I mean, we have lots of conversations around spiritual gifts with my church and things like that. And I always come up with helper, administrator type things.
Okay.
So that's where I probably am the heaviest. And so then, like, I started using Working Genius with my team about 4 years ago. But whenever it was new is when I started hearing about it. And so I used it with my team, but I just became a facilitator in February. And
that's right.
I'm super excited about, that's what's really getting me excited now. We can talk about that later. But I think it was one of my first talks about it. Oh, I know. I did a talk for my small group. I'm in a small group with my church that's women in leadership.
Okay.
6:45 on Wednesday mornings, because our women are go-getters who are all leaders in business and medical fields and ministry and all that.
Okay.
And we are a bunch of go-getters. And I got to speak to our group about Working Genius. And so since that's a small group out of our church, we always try to add a spiritual aspect to it. So then I was looking up Bible verses on the body and how we all work together as a body. And I'm going, oh my goodness, it works. It's amazing how it all goes together. And I mean, I haven't sat down and actually lined up every single one with Genius, but so personally, I definitely think the galvanizing and enablement works right alongside the gift of administration and the gift of helps.
Yes. And I will say enablement and galvanizing are two of the geniuses that I have part of the harder times of explaining. And so And I'm not sure why that is, but they're more of an enigma to me. And an enablement's my frustration. That's probably part of it.
Yeah.
But I think maybe I was just amazed that galvanizing was even a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so having like stories and experiences and putting it in front of my face like this has been very helpful to me to see how people are working out enablement and galvanizing geniuses on the day to day. So tell me, okay, so I know you've done a few facilitations, even though you just got certified in February, and you went in a little bit, so you were able to do a couple of nonprofits,
Mm-hmm.
and I think one of them was recovery or Christian based recovery. For me, I had a struggle when Working Genius was first introduced to me because I was in a role that was not satisfying my joy, my geniuses. It was very evident, and I already knew that, but Working Genius put the language to it. And you were discussing with me when you were telling me about this nonprofit of the scarcity mindset. And I think during that time, as a single mom, I felt like I just needed to put a roof over our heads and food on the table,
Mm-hmm.
and joy just couldn't matter. Okay, great. I have this great language. I can see it. I can take it out of the abstract box, put it in the concrete box. It equals productivity, but so what? And so I know I had to shift into an abundance mindset to even take further this journey based on the information that was given to me at that time, the perfect timing, because it was a perfect storm of what developed for me later on, and then opening Enjoy Workforce Solutions. So can you speak to a little bit of kind of the aha moments in that facilitation and getting somebody from scarcity over to abundance?
I had the opportunity to do my very first Working Genius workshop with one of my clients, Redeeming Grace Ministries near Auburn, Alabama. And they are a home for women coming out of incarceration and addiction. And it's very small right now. So it was 3 residents and 3 staff members. So we did the workshop together for a while, and we went through everybody's individual profiles of their working geniuses. And what I noticed with the residents, these are women who have lived in crisis for most or all of their lives. They've been out of prison for maybe just a few months, up to maybe a year, and they've been in this beautiful program that's holistic and helping them get on their feet and helping them learn new life skills and job skills and all those kind of things. But it had never occurred to them what kind of task or what kind of job might bring them joy. I think most of their lives they've just, possibly done things that were illegal to get money or low paying jobs. You just to get yourself by, survival jobs. And so it was kind of hard for them to think that way. But it was so encouraging as we did it together. The other residents that had lived with them for a few months, and the staff members were pouring encouragement into them. So, like, you remember when you did the garden? That was so cool, and you love to cook, and you do this, and they were relating those things that they already saw them do and what they enjoyed to that. And you're like, oh, you always have the best ideas of what we can do when we have fun activities. So I bet your invention really comes out with that. And I saw them have these aha moments and come to life with, oh, wow. And I just really infused that whole idea in them too, that they were created on purpose for a purpose.
Right.
Every genius is a beautiful gift of God. There's not one that's better than the other. We're all unique and we're all needed. That's why it's just such a beautiful picture
Yes.
of the body, because the gears of working genius work
Yes.
together and need each other, and they're all equal size. And that's why I get so happy about it, so excited about it, because I want everyone to get this, that they're so valuable just the way they were created.
Yes. Yes. So on I don't, it hasn't been posted yet, but I've talked to someone that had worked in a church at a church camp, and he was talking overall about churches and different Christian ministries. And, it takes a lot of volunteers. And he was suggesting, and I thought this was a great idea. And he said he's only seen it happen one time with doing Working Genius for the volunteers that are serving in their church.
Yeah.
And I would, if anyone's out there doing that, let me know, because I would love to talk to you, because I think that is a fabulous idea, just because of exactly what you're saying. We would want people to be, and nobody gets to get out of their frustrations, right? Like
not completely,
you're
but
going,
when you volunteer, why not?
right.
My church does similar to that. I mean, they very much have that philosophy. They go through, when you go to an intro to getting involved with church, it's called the growth track. Part of that is personality assessment. They use the disc right now.
Okay.
And spiritual giftings assessment. That's
Yes.
part of the process to becoming a volunteer at our church.
Okay.
And they say, we do not, because they'll say, here's a bunch of opportunities. Here's some that might work with how you're gifted. So they already do that. I would love to try to introduce the Working Genius part of that, but I go to a humongous church that is a very big machine. So it'll take a little while for me to get that changed.
Right. No, I know. And I know when people find this assessment is just different, and it's more along the lines of the gears, right? And the productivity. So you just have to
I can totally
get people
to
believe that it's actually a simplified version of all those other assessments, and gets things going.
Yeah.
So I have a propensity to send people questions on this podcast beforehand, and then not ask any of them. And you mentioned that you had prepared, so I want to make sure, because whenever someone says that, I'm like, let me make sure I ask questions, because I don't they're what I think of in the moment, but then as we're talking, I just start going here and there. So one of the questions that I sent you was sharing a turning point, personally or professionally, and what joy looked like in that season. Do you want to share on that one?
It's a little bit what I've said, but it was when we moved from Denver to Birmingham 7 years ago. Big change. And I just wasn't sure how this would work. Moving the company, is this going to, or growing the company that way? And I was just really nervous about it, because I left an employee and clients in Denver, and then we started, doing everything. We were already doing things virtually even then, because we were always working at home.
Right.
But I just didn't know people here. I wasn't sure I didn't know the nonprofit scene at all. But I found the joy by jumping into relationships at my church. We found our church first, and I was in small groups. I know I keep mentioning this, small groups, and what we call the dream team, the volunteer groups. And through that, that's where I found my dearest friends. That's where I found the connections that helped me grow the business. And I look back 7 years, I can't believe how many people I know, how many people I've hired in those last 7 years, how many nonprofits we've helped that I never would have had a chance to be a part of if I wouldn't have, gotten uncomfortable. And because I mean, part of me just wanted to say, forget it, I'll just get a regular job.
I know that feeling.
I've said
Okay.
that 10 million times. Forget it. Why am I leading? Why am I leading? This is hard. But I'm grateful, and that's definitely where I found joy in that transition.
Okay. All right. I think you were supposed to say that to me, because I have been right there, and I can't imagine going back to that, but it just seems
But
like
some days it feels really good.
Right. It seems like the easier.
Can someone else just tell me what to do, and I will?
Yes.
But then
Exactly.
I remember the unlimited vacation time I have, really.
To go back on somebody else's schedule, I just don't know that I can make. I don't know. I don't know, but we shall see. But no, I get that. So you said you found your church first. So I am a big believer that things are seasonal. And so you end up with the people in your life for that season. And some of them stay for a lifetime. Some of them stay for that season, and some of them stay for a moment. And my house is currently for sale, and I am not sure what the next destination is.
Wow.
So can you tell me a little bit about building that community? When you got there, you got into your house, your children are now in what span of life?
They were in seventh and ninth grade. Ninth grade.
Okay.
So it was a crazy time for them to
Oh,
be
yeah.
uprooted also and have to learn, find new friends. And my husband's parents and siblings live here, but they're more like 25 minutes away, different school systems. So I thought, oh, we're going to live life with them. And that's just not how it worked out with our housing and my husband's job and things like that. So I'm like, oh, we're going to find our own people. And it's not as easy at seventh and ninth grade because I feel like when they're little, your friends are the parents of their friends, because you're
Yeah.
planning play
Yeah.
dates and you're figuring all these things. Well, by the time they're in middle and high school, they're kind of doing their own play dates. They're doing their own thing and they don't need the moms to be friends and do all that.
Right.
So that was a little bit difficult, but just to be honest, I mean, we found our church first. My husband was here 2 months before I was, while I was wrapping up the school year and everything. And so he had already visited 5 churches, said, this is the one, I think, but see what you think. And we've never looked back. And it's huge, like I said, but it's all about those small groups. And we just jumped in with both feet, found some marriage small group. And that couple who hosted that 7 years ago is my absolutely closest friend here.
Okay.
Still. And I just started putting feelers out about, I have this business. How, does anyone know anyone and everything? So I just started talking about the business and just showing up to volunteer anytime, showed up at PTO at the middle school, got to know people there. I just got to know neighbors. And just everywhere I went, I was trying to just build some friendships. That's how I
Well,
That's
and
why
I
I'm
think
where I am now.
yeah, and galvanizing, I think, helps that a lot
Yeah.
too, as
Yeah.
well. All right. Is this the same? Is this a similar season where you had to fight for joy, or do you have an example of that?
Let's see what I put.
Mm.
It was, I'm looking back more. There have been lots of instances, probably exactly what we were just talking about, where it's hard. And the first one, probably fighting for joy, was when I was really facing burnout, doing everything by myself. And so I kind of told that story already, that when I turned the corner and started hiring people. But hiring people has its own set of things that makes it hard. I have supervised up to 10 people. Right now I have 7. So anywhere in that 7 to 10 range of employees means lots of people issues and clients who might not be happy every single day. And it was just, that has gotten to me sometimes over the years, where the HR related issues that I have to make decisions on, clients that have complained every once in a while, and you're just like, and that's really where I had to fight through fights for the joy and go, okay, was I called here? Am I called here still for this season? Is God going to give me the strength to get through this one, and the wisdom and all that kind of thing? Where what my fight or flight is really, I just want to get out of here. I just want to dump this whole thing. I won't want to do this anymore. But then you feel stuck because it's your thing and 8 people are depending on me.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
I've got all these people depending on me for the paycheck now. And so the pressure of that is real. But overall, I really do believe that this is a gift. I think what brought me back, even in the last, I don't know, 6 or 8 months, I've had those thoughts of, how do I get out? What am I doing? I just want to work somewhere else. I just want to work for someone, whatever. And what brought me back is, this was a gift. I feel like God told me, he gave me this business. Like I said, I don't feel like I went looking for it. He gave it to me as a gift to support my family, help my husband support my family and raise my children, and give all these people an amazing job, really, where they can work flexibly from their home help all these
Right.
nonprofits. When I start piling on the gratitude of what this is, not um anything of that I've done, honestly. It's really been a gift that God has given me the right people at the right time to learn the right things and move it forward. I can just be, okay, this is where I belong and I can find joy in it.
Yes. Yes. And I mean, working with nonprofits, I think is just a special place to be in and of itself. My hope would be to make the recruiting and bringing on passionate employees about whatever the nonprofit is doing and being able to put their geniuses to work, making that more accessible
Mhm.
to nonprofits as well. So I have a special place in my heart for nonprofits in and of themselves. So have you taken your team you mentioned through Working Genius?
Yeah, I have for years. So we incorporated Working Genius into our team when I first learned about it, and I listened to every single Working Genius episode. I was all excited
Oh
about
yes.
it. I probably don't do it perfectly, and I was still thinking about it again today. One of my employees is struggling, and I'm thinking, not really letting her use her geniuses. I think she's stuck in her competencies a lot more. How can I do that? It's a small team, and that's her job. So what do we do about that? And so I really am still struggling through it a little bit. I probably
Yeah.
need to talk to one of our other
So
facilitators like
yeah.
you and say, what should I do about this one? Because it's sometimes hard to see when you're in the middle of it, when you're the leader.
Right. And sometimes it is just about arranging your day, right? Because when you were on your own, and while I am on my own, you are in all of it.
You
I
have
mean,
to do all of it. Yeah.
yes, you're in all of it, and so sometimes just someone who is not living and working in their genius, they just need to arrange their day differently to plug their energy where they need to. I mean
Mhm.
that, and overall, what can that team do to rally around, not to take the job away, right? But just use each other in an effective way. And I know virtually that can be even more of
Mhm.
a stress to try to make that work.
Yeah.
But I mean, you have the language, you have the background, and you know how you have helped yourself with your frustrations as
Yeah.
well. So I'm sure that will come around
Yeah.
however it is supposed to. And I think anybody working for a leader that knows about Working Genius and is actually implementing it is th- uh, their value is being considered more
Yeah.
probably than people who aren't under the Working Genius
Yeah. We do
umbrella.
talk about it quite a bit. And every time I've hired, we've really, well, I should say in the last few years when I've really gotten it, we hire with Working Genius in mind. We have them take the assessment as soon as they
Mhm.
come on board. So yeah, we use it.
Yeah. Okay. So, how are you pursuing joy now, currently in your life, this life stage?
Well, my kids are now young adults, 19 and 21, and I am finding a lot of joy in launching these little baby of adult. I always say we're launching little baby adults like they're
Yeah,
little
I know. It's
babies
another adolescence.
because
I believe that
they're
for
not
sure.
ready to just fly, but they are flying, and it's like balancing that, figuring all that out. So, but it's honestly a lot of joy. Both of them are in a Highlands College, a ministry school. Both of them are serving the Lord, following the Lord. I'm really grateful for that. Watching them operate in their own gifts and who God made them. It's amazing to me. And then I'm finding a lot of joy in leading my small group for women. I have a different one that I lead. Um, and I am finding a lot of joy in Working Genius. I mean, this has been the culmination, not a culmination, but a attainment of a goal that I had for over a year to become certified. And so I did that in February, and I just am bubbling up with I really, really want to do more workshops. I've done only 3, like you mentioned, I think. And that's where I want to focus my energy. My business is doing great and really got its operations going where it's running itself pretty well. And I don't have to be as involved in the day to day. So, my dream and my desire is to shift focus to doing a lot more workshops. So, that's where I'm finding joy. And that's where I'm focusing my attention a lot is trying to get some more opportunities to do that.
Now, in your workshops, do you feel like enablement or galvanizing comes out more?
I think both probably. Well, the galvanize, you know how they have the titles. The galvanizing enabler is the enthusiastic cheerleader, isn't it? Enthusiastic
Encourager, or
encourager,
I think
something
so,
like
yeah.
that. And it
Yeah.
says something about cheerleader in the description. And so that's, I think it's both together with, I love to exude energy and get all excited about things and pump people up. And
Right.
so I think it's both with that, that I really love helping people. I love helping people see how beautifully they were made and how they can work together better. And part of that is kind of the galvanizing of, come on, this is a great idea. You should do it. Here we go. This is
Yes.
how you can plug it in.
All right. Have you had your children, adult children, take the student assessment?
I have not, and I really need to. I was talking about it with them, and I got to just get them to sit down and do it
Yeah,
because I think it'd be really helpful.
so I posted an episode today or yesterday that I did with Crystal Lee Craig,
Yeah,
and
I
she works
saw
in
part
a
of that.
college.
Yeah.
Yes, she's doing amazing things with the student assessment. So I highly suggest watching that for sure. But also, I gave it to my oldest child. She's 15, and
Yeah.
it was eye opening for me
Yes.
as well, because I feel like the competencies have a lot to do with the nurture of your environment.
Mhm.
What the kind of
Oh,
the
that's interesting.
environment that you grow, like the experiences, kind of geniuses are your calling, and then your competencies are kind of what your environment brought up
Huh.
out of you. That's my
I never
theory.
thought about that. That's
And
interesting.
so my daughter's competencies are wonder and enablement, and she's the oldest daughter, like I said, and so I rely on her a lot. So I think that's where the enablement came from. And then my genius is wonder, and you, to do life with me probably requires to get on board with to be able to pivot with me. You need a little bit of wonder in there. So that's where I feel like her competencies have come from, just from the 15 years that she's been here. But I've seen it. I see it in myself, and I've seen it in others. So just something to think about. And yeah, definitely as they're kind of navigating majors and careers and all that, I
Yeah.
think student assessment is a great new tool because it has not been around for a while.
Yeah, that's another niche that I'm really interested in is students and especially college students or young
Mhm.
adults trying to understand where they might want to go for career and different things or just even what skills and strengths they could highlight when they're
Right.
looking for a job. And my husband really has a background in helping people like career coaching. And I'm like, we could start a business together where I'm doing the working genius part and you're doing like the resumes and LinkedIn part, you know? So he hasn't gotten on board with that yet, but that's what I think will be
No,
fun.
that's that sounds amazing.
So I
I
really want to help more resident type people. That's where I wanted to say this one a little bit. It's full circle for me because in Denver, I was a live-in staff member at a home for teen moms when I was single. And then
Oh,
right
okay.
after we were married, we were live-in staff for a home for people dealing with addictions. My husband was the director. We did that for 6.5 years. So I love that whole clientele. And so I see all these little niches where I would love to get into is helping clients like that and helping students or people trying to reinvent themselves with the new career, the career part of it. So I don't
Right.
know. It could go so many ways.
No, I love that. I love that you can see where there's maybe a gap, or even where your strengths can help or do something, and then thinking of ways to navigate over there. There's not a lot of people, I'm discovering. I'm in a different phase of life with a different type of community, especially within Working Genius and then with entrepreneurs overall. And I have not been overly exposed to people following their dreams until the last few years, as I was kind of opening up to the idea myself. And I was like, okay, people, I'm not crazy for thinking this way. All
Yeah.
right. And there is a way to do it in a way that is not crazy, right? In a way that is stable and can provide for everyone in the home and provide for people out there
Yep.
and allow people to live and work in their strengths and their geniuses as well. So I love intersecting with people. And that is a wonder invention type of idea right there.
Maybe I have more than I think.
All right. Well, tell us how we nonprofits can get in touch with you.
Yeah, it's nonprofitnavigators.net. And we also have a page on there for Working Genius. So I'm trying to figure out if I need to have another DBA for the Working Genius work, because I don't want that to be limited to nonprofits. I really would love to work for profits also. So for right now, though, all the information is on nonprofitnavigators.net. And there's a Working Genius link and and you can see all the other services we provide with grant writing and consulting.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for your time today and being patient at the beginning of this as well. And I hope that we are collaborating together in the future.
Yes, so wonderful. Thank you so much for having me, Julie.